The 2025 sailing season is over and the boats are ashore. But wait, where's the Marina gone? The insidious build-up of silt had left dredging operations the only way to keep these berths usable at all states of tide. This is the story of how an amateur yacht club took on a project usually reserved for commercial marinas and pulled it off. The club in question is the Portsmouth Offshore Group, otherwise known as POG, based at Gosport. What began in 1965 as a small sailing club now manages moorings across Portsmouth Harbour, over 250 in 5 locations, as well as its shore facility, largely maintained by its own members. Tireless routine work by volunteers, as well as regular work parties, have maintained and improved these facilities, but it's been increasingly clear that the marina on Weevil Lake was silting up. Depths were reducing, access was tightening, and eventually dredging became unavoidable. The specialised nature of dredging work falls well outside what can be achieved by even our skilled membership, and so external contractors were sought to carry out the work. However, there's a lot more to this complex project than meets the eye, and there were numerous barriers to overcome before the work could be carried out. The current project stands alongside the largest and most complex projects completed by the club in its half-century of existence. In a break in the rain, I'm here with Mark Goebel, who is the Honorary Treasurer of POG. I'd describe his role more like the Chief Financial Officer of a medium-sized company. A project of this size must have involved quite a lot of project management in terms of sequencing. How was that arranged?
Well, basically the committee appointed a project team, which was Jenny, Andy and myself. We all took certain roles. Andy took the work party side of taking things out and putting things back together. Jenny was responsible for the relocation of boats and bringing those back in, and I was responsible for the finance side and for dealing with all the contractors. It's very important that you don't have lots of people dealing with the contractors, because otherwise nobody really knows what's going on. You need to have a single point of contact.
So tell me, when did the planning for all this marina work begin?
At the end of 2022, we knew that we would have to do some dredging to allow the boats still to get to their berth. We started the process for applying for the licence at the beginning of 2023. The licence actually took until March 2025 until it was approved.
2 years of detailed planning before even any of the practicalities started taking place.
Yes, once we knew that the licence was progressing, that we then started getting quotes for pontoons, because we decided when the dredging was being done was the best time to also replace our ageing pontoons, some of which were over 35 years old.
So that obviously saves a lot of costs getting as many jobs done in one go rather than having them done as separate operations.
Yes, because you have to remove the pontoons to be able to dredge. So if we were replacing them at the same time, we've kind of held off replacing them because there would be a double movement and the risk of damage to pontoons if you'd replaced them earlier.
I know you've gone to a lot of trouble to reduce costs, because I've just dragged you away from stripping copper out of scrap wiring to get the recycling costs. What other things were able to be done to save costs?
Well, the replacement pontoons that we've ended up having, the total cost of those is around about 500,000, including that. With negotiations and deciding exactly what you want, we managed to reduce that cost by just under 100,000 in total.
I watched the dredging taking place. That was a very large operation. How did you select the contractors for that work?
It was really on recommendations and on price. We had prices from 2 contractors, as I just mentioned. The fact that the Jenkins, who we used, who are based in Poole, used slightly smaller hopper barges. They could manage to get in amongst our piles, and sometimes I think you've been watching also, some of the manoeuvring is quite tight, and
yes, very tight.
But that actually has kept the costs down by using them. They have been very good. They've worked with us, they've worked around Walcon, and I think it was the right choice to go with them.
Yeah, they certainly seem to have done an excellent job of it, and they were really working hard through all weathers in that terrible December stormy patch we had.
Yeah, they were a week late coming to us because they'd been working at Cowes and there'd been storms in the 2 weeks before they came to us, which has had a knock-on effect. And the dredging company carried on working until Christmas Eve to complete the job here.
And yet the project is still finished on time, and here we are with boats coming back into the new marina.
Yes, it's very, very nice to be able to look out over a complete marina. Of course, we couldn't contract with anyone until we've been certain that we've got enough money to pay for it. So that was another area. The club builds up reserves, but it doesn't build up enough reserves for a project like this. So of the total project cost, which we expected to be about 875,000, POG itself had got capital of about 500,000. We obtained a loan from CSSA for 120,000, an interest-free loan, but that wasn't sufficient for the project. We were looking at commercial finance, but in the end, 2 members came up with the offers of loans, and those offers were taken up, which allowed the project to move ahead.
Thank you very much. The annual October lift out involved a much larger number of boats than normal. As usual, this was planned and carried out by our own skilled lift launch team volunteers, using the club's own tractor and Rudberg trailer. In spite of some poor weather, 64 boats were squeezed ashore, filling our modest car park, all to meet a fixed deadline the contractors could not miss. I'm here with Jenny Chilvers, who is the Moorings Officer for the club, and I think you've had 2 roles in this enormous project. The moorings themselves and moving the boats out and back in again, and the communication with the members.
But unfortunately, being married to one of the lift managers as well, I also got embroiled with that, making sure we got the boats out. But that helped me, because 15 extra boats out in the yard was 15 boats I didn't have to find a home for.
Yes, so how many boats are there normally in the yard on a winter lift?
About 50, and we got 65 in there this year.
That's a significant extra number, isn't it?
Yes.
So it still left us with many boats that needed to be placed elsewhere.
Probably after members, and we were very grateful to members who did sort themselves out. There's probably 45 or 50 members who made their own arrangements, and that helped the club bottom line enormously. It still left me with the best part of 95 boats to have to find a home for.
Wow.
Did it give me some sleepless nights, particularly at times when deals we thought were going to come off didn't come off? Yes, it did. But we achieved it, and on the 17th of October, at the last day of lift, the only boat that was left in the marina was the POG workboat, and everything else had gone.
Yes, that was an amazing sight when, with a completely empty marina, and then with the pontoons being stripped away. That I dare say the next phase of your job was just beginning then.
Yeah, it was. It was starting to plan the return, and also because a lot of boats were on contract for fixed end dates. It was about helping manage the end of those contracts so that people had return dates and things like that as well, because we had to extend all the return dates by about a month because of the weather delays. But yeah, we could not have done and achieved what we did without the cooperation of members. I had a fearful, but on the last weekend I would be moving boats out because people hadn't moved, they hadn't read their emails, but no, everybody moved on time, and that was a phenomenal achievement with fantastic support from the members.
That's a real theme that's coming from this project, is just how much the club members bought into this and did their bits. And
nobody quibbled the mooring they were given. So, because some people had ended up going up to Wicker on the midstream pontoons, and we know the weather can be a bit heavy up there. It's not called heavy reach for nothing. People went to Borough Island. We had 21 boats on GCC moorings out there, and I have to say Gosport Cruising Club GCC were phenomenal. In terms of every time there was a problem and their members let us know a problem, their moorings officer was on the phone to me saying, you've got a problem with one of your boats, you need to go and sort it. They were our eyes and ears, as well as, I have to say, the team of volunteers who willingly went out on some horrible weathers during December and November checking boats. We did a weekly check of all the boats to check they were all right, because if members didn't have the access to their boats, the club has checked them all.
But it was necessary to do this project through that winter period.
We couldn't have done it during the summer. We couldn't have rehomed the number of boats we needed to during the summer. We couldn't have filled the yard as we have in the summer.
No.
So it had to be done during the winter. So there were trade-offs in terms of things. But as I say, members willingly accepted where their boat went. And one or two didn't like where their boats went, but they paid for themselves to go elsewhere.
Yes, I understand the pontoons have been slightly reconfigured as they've gone back in.
So we've respaced everything. I did some analysis pre us doing the contracts and negotiating with Walcon as the contractor for respacing. I analysed all the boats that we had in the fleet to get the average size of a modern boat, because the Marina was built when boats were smaller and a lot narrower.
The launch was due for another 6 weeks or so. What work has to be done between then and now?
From my point of view, my next piece of work is making sure that all those boats in the yard, when they go back in, have got somewhere to launch to sort themselves out before they go away, which gets harder as we get to the second launch and I get less and less berths, and that gets more and more of a challenge.
Local specialist Walcon removed all the pontoons, detaching the sections from each other and lifting the large ramp connecting the marina berths to the shore. Some pontoons were removed from site to be replaced with new units, while others were safely stored afloat, leaving the marina empty except for the piles. This preparation was followed by the dredging operations themselves. This had to be completed on time because once the pontoons were gone, there was no way back. Our contractor, Jenkins Marine, used a JCB digger on the barge Doreen Dorward to remove 10,000 cubic metres of mud onto two 44-metre hoppers, nab and needles. If you think manoeuvring a 30-foot yacht into a marina is hard, try turning a fully laden hopper barge. The dredger fixes itself into position by lowering its own piles into the seabed, and then the massive scoop methodically removes mud into one of two hoppers. The full hopper, now very low in the water, makes its way out to sea to discharge the silt, which is dispersed by the strong solent tides. Meanwhile, the second hopper is loaded so that the dredging can be almost continuous, even extending after dark on those short December days. Members looking to recover keys, tools, rope and the many other items lost overboard down the years will have to look on the seabed at Hurst Narrows at the western end of the Solent, or else around the Nab Tower to the east of the Isle of Wight. The spoil was ferried away in 40 barge loads, sometimes in good weather, but on many occasions in the teeth of fierce autumn gales. On one occasion, a single trip took over 8 hours due to the severity of the weather. Jenkins pressed on with the work, often through weekends, in order to complete the project on time. As dredging operations progressed across Weevil Lake, Walcon were able to return to site. They began moving pontoons into their new positions, attaching them to each other and securing them to the piles, thus providing Jenkins with access to the southern part of the marina for dredging. So Jenny, the other aspect of your role was in communication with members. We're quite a large club, aren't we? We
are a large club. Overall, we've got 800 odd plus members. And it was felt very important, but we took the members on the journey. And I think that's one of the reasons why we got the cooperation when it came to emptying the marina, is because we had told people and told them again. So we set up a dedicated web page, which was for the programme, and I tried to put regular updates. The newsletter, we always wanted to say what was happening and where we were with the newsletter, so that people, the wider population, those who weren't affected, also knew what was happening. And of course, when we got to the major milestones, such as when the dredging company went on the 23rd of December, that was a major milestone. The dredging was complete. It was worth shouting to the world and all the members that we had got somewhere, because a lot of people then were expecting to bring their boats back in, and they couldn't because we were actually still waiting for the dredging company to go. And particularly all those who were impacted knew, but actually the pain they were suffering was for the benefit of the whole.
Yes. The dredging work was completed shortly before Christmas 2025. This allowed Walcon to return and begin reinstatement of pontoons, allowing some boats to return to a mooring in Weevil Lake. Over the early part of 2026, the remaining pontoons were reinstalled by Walcon, with the opportunity taken to improve many of the berths, allowing for the increasing size demanded by members' boats. The work did not finish there though. Working parties of club members were needed to restore the facilities and return the marina to full functionality, including cleats, water pipes, signage, safety equipment and electrical services. The opportunity was taken to replace all the pontoon cables, further future-proofing the facilities. Here we are on a very wet February morning at POG, and I'm with Andy White, who is the facilities manager here, a committee member, and we're going to talk a little bit about the challenges of this extensive work we've done in the club. So what was involved from the facilities point of view?
It was a lot of taking things apart and putting them back together again. So we've had over 200 man days worth of effort by club members, which I'm thrilled that they put in.
That must have saved a lot of money.
Saved, I think, £50,000-60,000 at least, but maybe more.
That's considerable for a club like ours.
And I think if you were, that was sort of at normal rates, it's also saved time. Few facts: we laid over 1,100 metres of brand new armoured electric cable. We've put in over 400 metres of water pipe work, thousands of fittings and junctions and connections, as you could guess. We've put on 200 new signs, and you'll see a few of those still to go on. We've done water, we've done ladders, we've done life buoys, we've done fire extinguishers, we've done everything, and it looks beautiful now. The lovely new surface.
It really does, yeah. The whole it's changed the whole aspect of the marina, hasn't it?
It has. It looks very modern, very new, and I think better arranged, but then I would, wouldn't I? And we've overcome a few difficulties, as you would guess, but it's all been done very smoothly without too much fuss or bother.
What were the most difficult parts?
Dealing with the inclement weather whilst doing the dredging and the refitting, and then finding things weren't exactly where they should be. You know, piles have slightly moved, so where it should be nice straight lines, it wasn't exactly. So we've had a little challenges, but honestly, nothing I wouldn't expect.
No. What now sits in Weevil Lake is the result of years of planning, hundreds of volunteer hours, and a shared belief that this club is worth investing in. These renewed facilities will serve current and future members for decades to come.